Good evening. This is Dr. John Brimhall. Doug Grant is on deck, and Clark Tilley's in the hole. If you're a baseball fan, that kind of lets you know what's happening today. You see right there on your screen, this talks about optimal health systems, and that's just exactly what it means. Hopefully you guys got a chance to look at your puzzle piece today that I sent out. Since yesterday was a holiday, we didn't send it out till this morning. But it talks about our new Opti-B, which is exactly what we're going to cover tonight for our optimal methylation. So that optimal keeps coming up over and over in our conversation for very good reason. I was lecturing with a really good doctor from this area here in Colorado a couple of years ago, and he was talking about methylation. And he brought out a point I'd never really considered. And he said, of course, the most important thing we do all day long is take in oxygen. When we take in oxygen, the oxygen burns to give us the energy from our foods. We know oxygen is a major part. Just stop for breathing for about 4 or 5 minutes and see how you do. We can go without food for quite a while, and water even for days, but for oxygen, 4 to 5 minutes is all you get, and you're gone. Well, methylation is second only to oxygen. And methylation talks about the little critter that has carbon in the middle and 3 hydrogens around it. And it's looking for a place to go all the time. So, Doug, go ahead and stay on that last slide there just a second if you wouldn't mind. Because methylation is this methyl group is going through looking to keep the body alive, to make the right nutrients work together in the body. And if you have a methylation defect, we call that a SNP, a single nucleotide polymorphism. And it's estimated right now about half of us have 1 or more SNPs in the methylation process. When that happens, you malfunction. That's all there is to it. Now we can go to the next slide. Methylation is a vital metabolic process, and it happens in every single cell, in every single organ and tissue all day long. It happens billions of times a second, and it has to do with detoxification, with repair of DNA. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. These normal reactions occur, as I said, billions of times every second in the body. It happens when one molecule passes a methyl group, which has this carbon atom and 3 hydrogens I talked to linked together. It goes right on to another molecule, and it changes the process of that molecule in detoxification and processing. When I was doing the research today for the puzzle piece, I just came across so many articles, it was unbelievable. But this is a slide that we made from that. It says some of the examples that we might not think about is when a molecule passes a methyl group to another molecule, it makes things like creatine, carnitine, CoQ10, phosphatidylcholine, melatonin, and on and on and on. So if you have a problem with your methylation, you have a problem in every aspect of life. You literally begin to die even though you're alive because you're not methylating properly. Doug, you're a specialist on this. Go ahead and talk to us about serotonin, if you would.
Well, it's great to be here again with you, Dr. John, on this critical subject. And I like talking about the different chemicals in the body also that need the methyl group on them or they don't work. And the easy one to talk about to patients is serotonin. You know, most people know that's the feel-good chemical. And what they don't know, though, is that if serotonin is not methylated, if it doesn't have that bond, it actually becomes dormant. And that's when depression, irritability, and really just a fog, an inability to focus happens in individuals. And it's not necessarily because the body's not creating enough serotonin. Many times it's because it's not methylated. There's not enough methyl groups available in the body because they're used up to donate to be able to help with that process. And I think that's a key factor here that we're talking about. It's not just methylated vitamins or anything like that. It's about also providing methyl groups to the body.
You know, another thing right where we're on that subject, here a few webinars ago when Doug and I were talking, he showed you an article where this article said if you take vitamins, you die quicker, you get cancer, you get all kinds of problems. Then he showed another article, if you have proper nutrition, then you live longer, you're happier, there's cancer preventive, and on and on. And he pointed out the difference was the nutrition they gave people. So many of the vitamins out there and minerals, even from companies we would expect to be good, are synthetic, and the body can't utilize them properly. In fact, all the methylation products out there that are like 5-MTHF, etc., from other companies are synthetically methylated to get them that way. The OHS is the only one that has the system, the patented system, that allows the body to pre-methylate and methylate all the products before you take them into your body. Now, it's still better to have the synthetics than it is not to at all, because there's been studies that have shown that men that take folic acid, if it's not pre-methylated and they have a genetic SNP, which is over half of us, right, then they get cancer of the prostate much faster than if they had not taken the nutrient at all. Well, it's a whole different world with OHS. Optimal Health Systems is what this is, because every product you take into your body is pre-digested, it's non-GMO, organic, whole food, and it has the trace minerals with it. Now, I want to bring up one other thing here. I was talking just this week, I think I missed the holiday. I had so many people call me with different questions on the beer and nutrition and everything over the holiday. We had quite a discussion. But one of the things you need to be aware of is that when you do testing of blood, we used to do one called cytotoxic testing. I think ALKIT is very similar. And that is, you do a testing and you check for 100 different foods you might be reactive to. So you might check 200 or 300. The more you check, the more expensive it is. But the interesting thing that they found is if you test the foods, and let's say you're allergic to 50 different foods, substances, etc., that you're exposed to on a daily basis, if you take those same tests and put enzymes in with the blood and with the substance that you tested, then you no longer react to it 50% of the time. So if you have enough enzymes, then you function better. So these are pre-digested with plant enzymes, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, everything is already pre-digested. So you've cut out 50% of your abnormal reactions already. Another thing that we were talking about is there was a veterinarian that was going around talking about trace minerals and all the different problems that could happen, named Dr. Wallach, and many of you may have heard him. Just a genius of a man. And he had pointed out so many animal studies that were done, and one I've talked about in the seminars before, if you've been around you may have heard me talk about it, is they had a new feed for poultry. And the poultry, they fed them this new feed, and all of a sudden these large feedlots for chickens and turkeys, they were stroking out and dropping dead by the hundreds. So really quick, they analyzed this new food that they had given such a good bargain price on, and they forgot to put copper in it. Well, copper has to do with the desmosine molecule that makes it like a plate-like living gargle. So your blood vessels and your arteries can expand and contract and not stroke out. With no copper in there, they literally stroked out. Well, that's the cool thing about OHS too, is that all of these products have the correct amount of trace minerals, because the trace minerals allow the cofactors to work in the body, and they're all organically converted the way the process is done. So think about this optimal health system as we're talking about Opti-B here today. All of these vitamins, minerals, and cofactors are organically methylated, so they take into the body. So we talked a minute ago about the genetic SNPs, and if these SNPs are there, and again, 50% or more of us, and some of us had multiple SNPs and in the methylation process. So the B factors are very, very important, and from B1, B2, B3, B6, folic acid, all of the B vitamins are incredibly important in the methylation process. Without B's, there's no methylation. Without methylation, there is dis-ease and many conditions that come from there. Doug, jump in here and tell us a little bit about.
Well, and as you were saying, I really wanted to play off that. As a lot of people don't realize the importance of adding in the plant enzymes and the organic minerals, and really what we're doing in many cases is allowing methyl groups to be disattached from the organic foods and be used where they're needed within the body. Many times I've gotten discussions with people over the years with the enzymes, and they understand how important they are to us in our discussions, whether it be with the patients or the athletes. And they're like, well, what do the enzymes do? They're, I don't see their function. Well, many times their function is just to help with the breakdown, the catabolism of the food nutrients or hydrolysis, to be able to allow these organic methyl groups from nature, from the foods we should be eating, to be able to enter into the cells and to create these reactions. And if we can improve methylation, we can improve the function of our health overall. And it's, our job that we work with nature to improve that function. And I always love these old cartoons coming from the medical colleges. This one was sent to me by a friend who's going to medical school, and he said, without using the words help, people, or science, tell me why you want to become a physician. And as you know, that's the main reason that so many of us are out there today, is to help others, to help people. And we want to use the science, and we want to obey the laws of nature. And as we do that, we understand methylation. But yet the establishment many times doesn't want to hear that. And it's important for us to stick with the basics. And as Dr. John said, really, it's sad because so many of the other groups and companies out there today that profess to be whole food really don't understand this methylation concept and the importance of having it be in every single formula, let alone a super high potency formula like we're launching tonight, the Opti-Methyl-B. Dr. John?
Yes, sir. It's just amazing. I was reviewing in my mind here, when we have homecoming this next year, it's going to be January 29, 30, and 31. We're going to have some outstanding speakers. They're going to talk about methylation and the new factions that we have available to make it happen with the products. Methylation is a form, if you go in the chemical aspect of alkylation, so the alkalinity with this methyl group. Rather than a large carbon chain replacing a carbon or hydrogen atom, the methylation cycle uses the methylation of the carbon and the 3 hydrogens. And if you can see here, just kind of start at the left and flow, you can see folic acid is very important. But I'm going to say it again. Folic acid needs to be pre-methylated. 5-MTHF is exactly what you want to have to go and to form the right processes in the body. Without that, if it's not methylated and you have a genetic SNP, you actually cause dis-ease and even disease. It says folic acid absorption takes place within the intestinal mucosal cells. Oh my gosh, here we are back to probiotics again. And we know that the Optimal Health System probiotic has 8 different creators in there that helps to reestablish the flora in each aspect of the small and large intestine. So when we talk about active folate, we want the L-methylfolate, and that turns on into L-MTHF, and then into the methylation cycle. And with the cycle, there's methionine, and there's SAM, and there's homocysteine. And without this proper 5-MTHF, you start to get homocysteine on the rise. What we have found, and if you know, this Opti-Methyl-B is new to the line. Now, it was already in the female product called female plus B, and also in the male product called male plus T for testosterone, but it also had the methylated Bs, but we did not have the full gamut until now. When I test patients, and those of you who see me lecture the last couple of years, I found it very important when we went over the area, what we call the blood quality area, which is just on the manubrium of the sternum. That has to do with the blood quality, mean is they anemic or is there a methylation problem? And most of the time it'd be a methylation problem. So if they tested weak over that area, either positive or negative, either the front of the hand or back of the hand if you're a muscle tester, then we found out they had a methylation problem. So we'd have to test 5-MTHF, we'd have to test for SAM, we'd have to test for a combination of the different nutrients that would help this to go to fruition. Well, since we have the methyl B, I only have to test for one thing because it has all of them in there, and the body chooses the methyl B over everything else. It's the only organic methylated high-potency B vitamin complex that exists because nobody else has that ability to do it. Now, it's kind of interesting. I wrote in the article today, what if Royal Lee were alive today? I mentioned that once before. Would he not be excited that now you can have organic whole food B vitamins, not at 1 milligram like the other companies have to do if they're whole food, but look over the right hand here, starting at the top. B1 thiamine, 24 milligrams. B2 riboflavin, 22 milligrams. Niacin, B3, 125 milligrams. Pyridoxine, B6, 20 milligrams. Folic acid as folate, and remember, broken down into the right amount, 1,200 micrograms. Methylcobalamin, 420 micrograms. Biotin, 410. Pantothenic acid, choline barytrate. You get the idea that it is exactly the right amount for the right thing to allow it to happen. And then you can see in this whole food culture blend that you're getting a lot of other natural factors you only get from food. It goes back to Royal Lee's concept. So when you have just vitamin C, if it's synthetic, it's just vitamin C. But the way Royal Lee formulated things, he always had them come from food sources. Therefore, you had all kinds of factors like F factor and G factor that nobody really knew what was in there for years and years until they could analyze it, but they knew it would keep people alive longer. A study that was done years ago is they researched out everything that was in seawater, They put it in a big tub, and they put seagoing fish in that water. Every single fish died. They took one drop of seawater and put it in that great big tub, and with that one drop, every sea animal they put in there stayed alive after that. So we're talking about the unseen, the critical things that allow us to have effectivity no other company can even talk about if you're going to have the kind of dosages we're talking about, broken down, methylated, pre-methylated, with all the cofactors that exist in here. Now, if you take a second and look, back up 1 second there, Doug, if you would, please. If you look at the triangle, this is the Brimhall triangle, and of course we start off with nutrition, structure, and emotions from Dr. Goodhart's research, reading Daniel David Palmer. And DD said that subluxations can come from these three causes. Well, the more patients we saw, the tougher cases we got, the more we realized there are 6 pieces of the puzzle. There is structural, there is nutritional, but there's emotional, there's electromagnetic, there's toxins, and there's allergies and sensitivities. So each 6 factor is really covered by doing the evaluations we do structurally and nutritionally, emotionally. If you have the right nutrition, everything works much better than it did before. Doug, tell us a little bit about, I know the trace minerals in here, the albumin trace minerals. Would you explain to us the difference between albumin trace minerals and maybe some others that are in different products?
Well, the key with that is that, as you're mentioning, it's the little things that make the difference. I mean, as we'll talk about here in a minute, B12, you'll be able to understand that a lot better. But in nature, the plants and the vegetables will bring inorganic minerals up into them and then chelate them through a bisglycinate process, meaning binding the glycine amino acid to each side of that mineral. So if it's calcium, instead of it being inorganic within the plant, it goes through the process and now becomes organic because it's bound through ligand bonds to these glycines. So it's a bisglycinate chelate, or in the old days we just called it straight amino acid chelate. And these minerals being organic, that means they already have the dextrorotatory spin that they're able to provide life. And in this instance, they're able to help activate the enzymes and the probiotics and create the methylation with the vitamins that are needed to be able to create the high potencies that we're wanting and still remain in the whole food form. And that combination, along with the organic foods and the fruit blends and the special probiotics, really creates for the cultured media blend that allows this process to happen. And that's really the difference. If we use regular minerals that were not organic and not chelated, then we'd have to worry about what are we doing to help those minerals be activated? What are we doing to help the enzymes be activated? You know, we'd have to worry about each thing, but when you bring them into the soup, if you would, already in the organic dextrorotatory life-giving form, then they work synergistically with each other instead of looking to each other just to allow them to be able to do their function within the body. I think that a good way to explain it even further, and I really wanted to, me and Dr. John wanted to make sure we put in this section the actual citations from the research studies, because it is quite a controversial subject, but it shouldn't be. There is no controversy when you look at the organic chemistries of this. So we're going to look at one vitamin real quick just for the sake of time, but we really want you to understand this concept. And is this. Let's take B12. As you know, we have 7,000% of RDA per serving in the Opti-Methyl-B. B12, of course, is a building block of the body. It's used to produce DNA, and it's vital for cell growth and repair, keeping your immune system functioning, and so on. And it also helps to lower, the homocysteine. And so the research is real strong on that. But the new research is showing that the B12's most vital function of all may be protecting our brain and our entire nervous system. Tons of new research out on Alzheimer's, dementia on this. And it does this by keeping your nerves communicating together. And how it does it is through methylation. Through methylation. That's the key. It's not just the B12. It's the methylation process of the B12. And that's critical. So this new emerging research shows that the age-related, cognitive decline and memory loss are linked to the process that involves your brain actually shrinking. And we know that's what happens as we age if methylation doesn't occur properly and also B12 being delivered properly. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with the landmark study that was been done recently on B12, it actually shows that the rate of brain shrinkage can be slowed down and actually even stopped, and they were real careful with it, so they called it a crawl, but actually stopped with the proper dosages of B12. But understanding it must be the right form. It must be the methylated process because it's responsive we know that methylation is responsive to toxic metals and things that Dr. John will talk about here in a minute that actually can ruin it. But we don't even give it a fighting chance if we give the body synthetic vitamins. Most of you know of B12 out there is cyanocobalamin. And if you look at almost every supplement in any GNC or Walmart or Walgreens or High Health or anything out there, the high majority of those that have B12 are from cyanocobalamin. And the problem is if we go to basic organic chemistry, and we're talking basic 101 here, but the public does not understand it, that when we're talking about cyanocobalamin, they don't teach that there's a nasty little secret here. Cyanocobalamin is comprised of a cyanide molecule attached to cobalamin. Cobalamin is B12, so cyanocobalamin is cyanide attached to cobalamin. It's toxic, it's poisonous. I don't think we have to go into excuse me, the research of cyanide and what it does and the poisoning effects of the body. Those of you that have understand the chemistry of it, it is like suffocation, because cyanide stops the cells of the body from using oxygen. That's how it works. It just stops oxygen from being able to enter the cells, so we suffocate. And what happens is, since we're not dying, we suffer usually from general weaknesses and confusions and bizarre behaviors and excessive sleepiness, shortness of breath, headache, dizzy spells. Does that sound familiar with some of your patients? Well, that's why I never understand, Dr. John, we just beat our heads against the wall with this, is why there's so many B12 supplements on the market that are actually dangerous. I mean, it's cyanide, cyanocobalamin, that's what it is. And, we've discussed this, and before I go to the next slide, we really have had a hard time at times discussing what do we do about the need to teach the importance of methylation, the need to teach the importance of whole food vitamins and not sell out our industry. And we've made a decision that we need to respect everyone. We respect Royal Lee gosh, he's a mentor, and all these, but we also have to tell the truth about what's going on in order for us to be able to help make the industry change. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a change. Here's standard process. Just do a search in their website. I did a quick one and I quit because I started getting too upset. Look at Cataplex B12, Til B12, folic acid B12, Centoplex, the multivitamin basket. They all contain cyanide. They all contain cyanocobalamin. And this is supposed to be, our lead, our flagship whole food company. And I don't mean to just pick on them, but just think about all these other companies out there that don't claim to be whole food. You know what's happening. So we just want you to be aware, and we hope that these great companies will just wake up a little bit. And now that some of the great leaders have passed on, and maybe things have gone a little bit astray, that I think within the next year you're going to see a lot of these companies get rid of these type of ingredients like cyanocobalamin just because we're helping to spread the word. So hopefully it'll turn out to be a positive for them. But doctors, are we recommending cyanide to our patients? We need methyl. We need the methyl groups. That's the key to everything we're talking about today. Maybe I'll just go one more, Dr. John, and I'll turn it back to you here. Sorry about that.
Hey, you're having so much fun here. I'm going to pipe in here a little bit with Muscle RX. I can see where you're going with this thing. It's he points out here that creatine is one of the largest methyl donors in the body. Muscle RX is a second secret weapon to methylation. And so Doug has been so instrumental in the athletic world to bring this to fruition, so we have it available. Tell us a little bit about Muscle RX from your viewpoint, then tie it into how it helps methylation.
Well, I appreciate it. And Dr. John scheduled some time for me to speak in detail on this at Homecoming, so this is kind of a little teaser. We're going to break out some information that's just not understood or known much in in the health professional world that's critical that I think will be real big in the next few years. And that is, as Dr. John says, you know, we have a huge problem, sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. As we age, we lose muscle. That muscle is what surrounds the spine. It keeps everything in check, keeps a strong posture straight. It keeps our energy levels up. Our body burns more calories. We need to retain our muscle. We don't have to bodybuild. We don't have to build big muscles, but we need to retain and keep strong our muscle. And sarcopenia is a huge problem, is this age-related muscle loss. If you're over the age of 35, you're losing muscle unless you're doing something to keep it, unless you're doing strength training, unless you're taking specific nutrients into the body, one of them being creatine. But creatine's known as one of these bodybuilding nutrients, and really it isn't. It helps just to retain lean muscle that we all need, especially in practice. And so we actually are the only company that I know of in existence that, although there's probably literally 70, 80,000 supplements out there that have creatine or they claim to help people retain lean muscle or build big muscle, we're the only ones I know of in the industry that has an actual patent showing, and I put it on here, that is a non-steroidal anabolic composition. We are able to, with this formula, proven to help retain and build lean muscle, as well as taking the hormone like testosterone. And it can be done mainly not through just creatines and things like that, but the form they're in. We use a special form that's highly methylated. And as Dr. John said, it's already a great methyl donor, creatine is. But ours is actually another step up. And next week, we're going to be at the largest show in the nation or in the world on fitness, and that Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then we'll be at the Olympia. And there'll be literally at least 1,000 different creatine products out there, but not one of them will have the patent like this to show that we can help with those methyl donors and be able to reduce things like homocysteine. And that's one of the key factors, and I think that Dr. John really caught on to and made us realize the importance of bringing this to the health professionals, is that elevated homocysteine we know is very dangerous, and it's a result of not having the methylation process happen. And so we need to keep the methylation up, and as Dr. John said, creatine is a huge factor in providing methyl groups. So not just the Opti-Methyl-B, but also look at it from the standpoint of if there's muscle issues, providing it through the Muscle RX. And we'll present a whole volume of studies at the upcoming homecoming in the end of January, but the first published study ever showing this showed the methylation demand in order to reduce homocysteine in the body, and how creatine helps with that tremendously. So don't look at the Muscle RX formula as just something for muscle. Look at it as a methyl donor to go hand in hand with the new Opti-Methyl-B. And we know that the B vitamins can lower homocysteine levels, and that's why Opti-Methyl-B will do it also. But when you combine it with something like the Muscle RX, you're going to get a huge benefit from it. Dr. John?
Yeah. Would you tell us a little bit? We talked the other day about Opti-Nitric and Opti-Muscle RX and how they work together, and maybe some of our listeners weren't here at that time. I think that'd be a good correlation, because like everything builds health and wellness the way we're going here. If as you get older, then we know we have erectile dysfunction, we have heart problems, we have vascular problems, and the Opti-Nitric fits in to the methylation cycle as well as does Muscle RX. Can you tie those together in our mind, please?
Yeah, absolutely, and I really appreciate you bringing that up, because if you think about it, the methylation process is based on two factors. One is being able to provide the methyl groups themselves, and that's why Opti-Methyl-B is so great, because you're actually providing more B vitamins than the body needs, but they're water soluble, so the body will get what it needs, saturate the tissues, and allow the extra methyl groups to float around so the body can use them. The same is true with the Muscle RX, but if they do not float around, in other words, if circulation isn't happening, then we're not going to get the benefit of the methyl donors to be used where they're needed. That's where something like the Opti-Nitric comes in, because it increases the circulation by improving the flexibility of the bloodstream through the nitric oxide. The nitric oxide is created through Opti-Nitric, and it penetrates the endothelial cells in the bloodstream, thus allowing the flexibility of the blood vessels themselves so that we get better circulation. If we improve circulation while making sure these specific nutrients and chemical structures like the methyl groups are present, then optimal health happens. But if we don't have proper circulation, we don't get good health. If we don't have the nutrients in the bloodstream, so when they're circulated, they get to where they need to be, we don't have optimal health. And so it's a great tie-in, Dr. John, for people to understand is it's one thing to provide these great methyl groups through Opti-Methyl-B and Muscle RX, but it's another to make sure that they are circulated properly so they can get past the blood-brain barrier, so they can get to the specific areas in the body and not just through the basic blood vessels, but all the way down into the fingers and the toes and all the places where we just need some of that microcirculation. And that helps tremendously. So that combination is a great way to go.
All right. Well, he said that microcirculation word, so it kind of triggers my mind. I want to come to homecoming this year again because he keeps bringing it up. I keep bringing it up because this is going to be the most phenomenal group of doctors we've ever assembled and nutritionists in the world. Dr. Burka is one of the leading physicians in microcirculation in America, and he's actually studied under the leading physician in all the world in Germany. Dr. Burka will show you the Beamer wave and how it literally dilates the microcirculation, which is 74% of the circulation of the body. And so, in fact, next week, Tuesday night, same time, same station, Dr. Burka is going to be on here, and we're going to go over the beam wave therapy, microcirculation, and how we use nutrition now with the Beamer wave to increase microcirculation up to 30%. It's kind of interesting. I went down to my aunt's 90th birthday here last weekend, and I took my Beamer down with me, and of course I take all my nutrition with me, and I test everybody and say, hey, you gotta get on Opti-B and everything like that. But I did a treatment on the Beamer, and one of the brother-in-laws who had a block in his heart, and he had a circulation problem. He said, well, why did you choose this PEMF over others? I said, it's real simple, because the Beamer wave actually peaks. It's a sine wave, and it peaks 40 times before it hits the top. That's what dilates these micro blood vessels. And the interesting part to me was if I ever knew it, I had forgotten that 74% of our blood circulation, 74% takes place at this microcirculation level. And this fellow already had a blood clot, and they were afraid to do anything with him in case it broke loose. But by increasing the microcirculation with the nitric oxide product we're talking about, with proper methylation we're talking about, with Muscle RX we're talking about, we're increasing muscle mass, increasing the way the blood flows through the arteries, and now with the Beamer wave, we're actually increasing that blood supply in every aspect of the body. And it isn't dangerous to a clot because it increases the microcirculation. It sucks the back pressure off. A lot of times the blood clots just disappear because the microcirculation holds them off. I can tell you what, I've been in practice for 44 years, and I don't think practice has ever been so much fun. I just know when I see somebody, I can help them with the new nutrition we have, with the Beamer wave, with all the other things I've always used. But I'll tell you, it's been a fun thing to tie all these together. And to cap that off, we've come up with the Opti-Metals Detox and the Opti-Enviro Detox. Because anytime you have a methylation process, it can be blocked by heavy metals, by toxic halides, by organophosphates, and all the other things. Bisphenols A, is just so many things right now. The phthalates, they're constantly killing us. And they inhibit this methylation process. So I was able to, I've been working on it for a year now, put all the metals in one homeopathic bottle. One medical doctor, a PhD friend of mine, said, hey, these are more expensive than the other ones. I said, well, compared to what? I mean, these wholesale for $18 a piece, but the other ones sold for $19 a piece, and you had to have 16 of them. You have one of these. So this is like, 1/10 or even cheaper than that, because fluorine, chlorine, bromine, the precursors, etc., in the Opti-Environmental Detox, but all the metals, lead, copper, mercury, uranium, thallium, the things we used to have individual bottles for, are all in the Opti-Metals Detox. So there is not a patient I will see where I fail to test these. I'll do the scan, I'll check for methylation. Opti-B has solved every one I've checked so far, which is incredible. But when I challenge them to see if there's any heavy metals in the body or toxic halides, you think any one of us doesn't have those? Is there any chance we don't have any heavy metals in the body and other poisons? It'd be impossible. But where we've done these homeopathics, they're like the organic form, they're hand surcussed, and the body can choose which one it wants at a time. So let's say somebody comes in and I put the Opti-Metal Detox next to their body and they stay strong. Well, then I take the Opti-Enviro Detox next to the body and they go weak. That means there's an electromagnetic imbalance caused with something in that bottle. Now, when we look at regular vitamins, you want to give Opti-B, Opti-Methyl-B, because that makes them stronger from a weak muscle. But when you find the right homeopathic, it will make a strong muscle go weak because that's the vibration they need. Then when you put the drops under the tongue, they will then strengthen again. So make sure you understand the difference between homeopathic and regular nutrition testing. So if the environmental detox would make them go weak, go back, Doug, if you would, to that for just a second. If it goes weak, then I put 1 to 3 drops under the tongue. And how would I know? Because if 1 drop made them strong and I gave them a second drop and they went weak, I went a little too far. But you can self-test and ask that same question too. As soon as I put that Opti-Enviro Detox on there, sometimes they'll taste crap on the tongue. You'll start smelling it coming out their skin. You'll start to get a little gastro upset yourself because their toxins are coming out of their body immediately. And by doing that, then if you test the areas of the brain, you'll check the right cerebellum, then the left cerebellum, then you'll check each temporal lobe and the parietal lobes, and then you'll test and laser. Any one of those will blow weak, you'll reset that with laser. So this is an incredible technique. If you don't understand that, go back and look at the puzzle piece I did just a couple of weeks ago. Again, at homecoming, we're going to go over this in great amounts, and I'll be doing the advanced testing, and Dr. Brett will be doing the beginners and the intermediates, and we'll be demonstrating that. Interestingly enough, we have found you can do about 3 detoxifications on each patient, each visit, if you choose to do that much with your own time. The patient can usually take it. So let's say I give them the Opti-Enviro Detox, they go weak, I put a drop into their tongue, they go strong, I laser the areas that go weak of the brain or even any organs that might blow weak to that. Then if I put it up to their body again, if they go weak again, I give them another drop, 1 to 3 drops under the tongue again of environmental detox. But let's say it doesn't make them weak this time, but Opti-Metals makes them weak. Then I give that drop under the tongue. Well, how do you know which one they're using? You do not know. You do not know if they're working on chlorine, fluorine, bromine, the phthalates. You don't know whether they're lead, mercury. It doesn't matter. The body knows, and when you treat it, it automatically will cycle to the next one. So you don't want to, if say you've treated 2 metals in an environmental detox with drops on the tongue, you've lasered the appropriate area, you don't want to put either one of those bottles back up to the body again, because if there's one more there, it will pop weak again. You've got to treat it. So I don't ask the question more than 3 times. I have found by using the Opti-Metals Detox and the environmental detox, along with the OptiNitric and Muscle RX and the new OptiNitric, I have changed people's worlds. I mean, just in a matter of a few visits, because the amount of increased methylation, detoxification go together. Then when I use the beamer with them, I know it gets more blood supply, up to more oxygen, up to 30% more oxygen, and then it hauls the toxins away faster. So this has been absolutely a lot of fun. So the body and its methylation activities must constantly adapt to all these toxic changes. So every time they come in, I check them for 1 or both of those bottles we just showed you. And then I always want to stay on top of the Opti-Methyl-B. But I just can't imagine that you're going to have one patient you treat that doesn't need some adrenal support unless they're 80 years old and have nothing to worry about, right? I mean, you say that's stupid. People 80 years old need more adrenal stress. Well, or they have more adrenal stress. Well, not really. Jay Mead, that had done a lot of work in the salivary testing areas, found the only time he ever found a adrenal that was absolutely normal by salivary testing was when they actually had retired. Not really 80, but more in the 60s, early 60s, or if they retired in their 50s, things calm down enough, their kids are gone from home, then their adrenals balance out. But when we're shucking and jiving in our younger years and in the early years, if we're still stressed out, then it's important that we always check for the adrenal. We check for methyl B. We check for the detoxification homeopathics that we're talking about here. Can you see the tools that we now have we never had before? The methylation pathway is so, so important. We need to get rid of the environmental toxins. Well, is it still important that we use a foot bath? Is it still important that we do sauna? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have some patients that I'm treating. I usually only treat patients nobody else has been able to help. So I see the worst of the worst. I literally have those kind of patients start off their day with adrenal. Many of them have thyroid problems, so we have them on the Opti-Adrenal, we have them Opti-Thyroid throughout the day. We detoxify them with the metals detox and also the environmental detox. We're finding the Opti-Methyl-B is critical for methylation in the body. But we're doing the beamer on those people that can afford their own. I have them do one in the morning and a session in the afternoon. And then I have them do a foot bath after they do a beamer, infrared sauna, if they actually have one available, or if they have an office where they can go. And we're seeing amazing changes in people. You say, well, I don't have all that stuff. Well, then start off with the most important things you do have. You have the nutrition. You don't have it today. You can call the office and get it tomorrow. Get started on that. But come to homecoming, look at some of the literature I'm sending you out from the puzzle pieces. Every week we're tying in and giving you the new literature on the products we're developing, on the beamer, on detoxification. It's just really, really fun. So these multiple patent processes that OH has, nobody else can touch it. They can't do it. They can't make it. Other people ask me to formulate for them, and we can do that. We can make other products, but we don't allow the non-GMO, pre-digested, organic, whole food nutrients out for any other company. Definitely not at this time. So, Doug, are we always going to be stingy?
Well, we'll see how things go. It sure would be great for everyone else to get on board, though, and start to understand the importance of this methylation. And as you said before, you know, some of our great mentors that we grew up idolizing, I think, would love to have that type of ability today. So I think that we always need to look for what's best for the industry. And, you know, the thing with today is the launch of the Methyl-B, and we need to make sure we understand that the methylation pathway has to be respected. And that was the main takeaway tonight, is to understand that this pathway needs to be respected. We need to obey the laws of nature, that we do not want the synthetic processes used, and especially when you're dealing with very high dosages. This is a therapeutic formula. Very high doses, something we haven't ever done before. This is definitely something that, you know, Dr. John said we need to do this. I didn't understand it at first, and then as we got through creating the formula, realizing that, you know, gosh, let's say that the body doesn't need 7,000% of B12 at the moment, that everything's working fine cognitively, and you're not needing help with, you know, risks of Alzheimer's and so on like that. Well, we're talking about a water-soluble vitamin that you've just presented tons of methyl groups with, that can be used in other places of the body. And I see that wisdom and the benefit of doing it and using B vitamins as a carrier for the methyl groups, not just for the B vitamin purposes, but for the methyl groups. And that's very important, and why the pre-digestion is critical to the formula. And as Dr. John mentioned, the two things that you can count on in every formula is that each one is organically fermented to have the high potency vitamins, so we don't have to deal with synthetics, but we still get the high potencies. And everything's pre-digested, and that's critical. We're pre-digesting these formulas before they're encapsulated, so that when your patients take them, they're immediately absorbed at the cell level. You don't have to have your patients they're going through stress and acidity, and you don't have to ask them to deliver the nutrients. You're helping deliver it for them. And it brings the ability for us in the nutrition world to get the benefits to the speed that's needed, that, you know, only was rivaled before with injections and drugs, and we don't want those chemicals in our body. We're talking about being able to do it nutritionally. So we're very, very excited about those two. There's a lot more uses and dosages for this formula. Just thought of a couple extra ones: the cellular methylation, the B vitamin saturation, brain function. As Dr. John mentioned, just to add the methyl groups. Dr. John, some of the other uses for the formula?
You know, no, not really, other than the B's are necessary for stress in any way. When you look at the tongue, this is a good thing you can do, is look at people's tongue. If there's any cracks going down it, they call it topographic tongue, and you're going to see about 80% of the people you see that are very old at all are going to have these cracks in the tongue or waffling on the outside edge. And the fact that this B will help to rebuild that. Nervousness, irritability, like you said, lack of serotonin.
Now, one thing that the patients are going to see is they're going to see that their urine is going to turn a darker yellow, and let them know that that's going to happen, because they're going to be saturating their tissues with the B vitamins and these high potencies. and that they'll be able to, what the body doesn't need of the Bs, it will eliminate, but it will retain the methyl groups. And what's interesting, our head of production with this that runs the capsules through the lab, he took the formula when it first ran and said, hey, I hope I can take this many, but I took 5 of them. And I'm like, what? And he said, I took 5 of them? And he said, you know what? I used to go through 2 5-hour energies at a time, and I had more energy, but I was more focused than taking any of those 5 hours and all this other stuff. And I want to know why. You know, it doesn't have any. It's not even like natural vitality. It doesn't even have any nutrients or herbs that really you think metabolically, but it's that B12 and these other energy vitamins and those high potencies that was giving them that energy. And so I'm not necessarily recommending taking high amounts of the formula, but I thought it was interesting that that the person actually felt like they were on some type of a energy drink, but with the opposite effects, not just having energy, but having actual focus. And that's one of the things that something with this level of a B12 and that in it can provide too. So you might want to, as Dr. John said, on the stress factor, but also helping with focus and clarity through the day. We're actually going to be trying this formula out. I just got off the phone about 3 hours ago with the head strength coach from the Miami Heat, and instead of giving B12 shots, for some of the players that come in at halftime and want it, they're going to use the Opti-Methyl-B. So we'll keep you informed as the season goes on and starts. We're starting up here in about 3 weeks of training camps. Being able to use this formula in place of B12 shots, which B12 shots, I said, you know, why are you giving them cyanide? And you know, let's use the methyl group and switching them over. So we're real excited about it.
There's definitely another thing that you've jogged my memory on, Doug, and that is when people are doing beamer therapy right now, if they do a little too much, they can get foggy brain. And it's because they're dumping so many toxins, they can't eliminate them fast enough. I now know we're going to be able to use the Opti-Methyl-B on them. As you mentioned, your urine may get a little bit yellow because that's the excess passing out through the urine. But who's in charge of detoxification? Your liver and your kidneys. In fact, Doug has a product called liver kidney cleanse. It's so important to do that. So if you get a little yellow urine, you may even get a little burning sometimes as you're cleaning and detoxifying, preventing other problems from happening in the body. So I think that would be a real good deal to do, is to do the Opti-Methyl-B during your detoxification process. Before we turn this over to Clark to correlate how we're getting more patients to use more nutrition by understanding, I just want to review the speakers are going to be at homecoming. Of course, Doug is going to lead the pack, and not only is he going to speak from the platform, but he will have them both work sessions, or Friday and Saturday afternoon. He's going to have our breakouts where he can take all the products and really work you over with them so you know exactly what they do and how they do it. Dr. Smaldone is coming back this year, who is both an athletic trainer and a chiropractor, and he was just listed as one of the top chiropractors in the world. It was pretty interesting. They just received that honor here this last month, and he is incredibly in tune on how he can help fix extremity problems, spinal problems, and he's a master at taping. I had injured my shoulder just before homecoming last year. In fact, it's been nagging me a little bit. I'm not around Dr. Brett or anything anymore, so I just had him check it one time. He adjusted that shoulder and taped it once. I even forgot about it for 6 months. It just completely healed by the time I took that off. It was pretty exciting. We have a new person on board with us now that's working with Dr. Brett and helping us in our research field, Dr. Western Childs. He's an osteopath and has had a personal experience with coming to me and having me help him, and he's just turning him into an animal. You've probably seen the puzzle pieces. He's written 2 of them talking about the pitfalls of modern medicine and how functional medicine is what we need to do. So he's going to be covering things like weight loss, using hormones, detoxification, brain training, that type of thing. Dr. Merkel is going to be back by popular demand, to say the least, teaching us how and what kind of blood studies to do and how to interpret them. Dr. Brett and myself will be on there. Jonathan Walker is coming this year, and he's brand new to us. He did a webinar here for us a couple of weeks ago, and we had the largest turnout we ever had. We had like 300 people sign up. It was amazing, because I think we told you that Jesse did his exact program in peripheral neuropathy, And Dr. Liebman, the very first month he implemented the program, he made an extra $87,000 that month. That was in July. August, he just did over 80,000. He hadn't exactly added up, but he knew he went over 80,000. So that means he did $170,000 in 2 months extra over about anything else he'd ever done by using the protocol that reestablishes circulation back in the body. Dr. Walker was one that really pushed us to go ahead and develop the Opti-Nitrate because he uses that in there. Of course, we use his laser. The beamer, Jesse bought one beamer. 2 days later, he bought another beamer to use in his peripheral neuropathy course. So that's coming. We'll have another webinar in November before we have the class in January, and he'll be on there. Brandy, of course, is going to be talking about their lovely ICD-10s that are coming in right now in October. And so come January, she'll help clean up your messes. I know she answered questions. Yesterday was supposed to be a day off. She's on the computer 2 hours answering people's questions. And so I think her judgment of men is poor, but her brain is pretty smart on everything else, being my wife. But she's amazing in that field. So we look forward to seeing you in January. So put that on your calendar right now. Clark, why don't you talk to us?
Thank you so much, Dr. John, Doug. Pretty great. I'm thrilled to be with you tonight, and thank you, doctors. This is pretty exciting stuff that Dr. John and Doug are presenting and sharing with you. Some time ago, I had a phone call from Dr. Hayes, who heads up Greens First, and as we talked about the Thrive system, he talked about what a genius thing it was to have a system to educate the patient, which is the very group that purchases all of these products and purchases your therapies and services from you as a doctor. And that key to that would just be, how in the world do we do that more efficiently and more effectively? And the Thrive system does that. You know, as we bring Dr. John and Doug bring these things to you as a doctor, how do you now educate your patient in a more powerful way than you've had in the past, perhaps? And we know there's all kinds of systems and automation things out in the marketplace today. And we're finding that with the Thrive system, it's making a significant difference in the offices of those doctors who are using it effectively. And we constantly come back to these three circles. We call them the three pillars of Thrive. Is on top, patient education, to the right, revenue generation, and to the left, reporting. And how crucial these three pillars are in your office, in your business that you're running, to help you be more successful, not only with bringing health to your patient, but bringing financial health to your business. And we have so much data that helps us just know that these things are so key. Educated patients act, meaning that they respond as they learn about the different therapies you have and the things that you can treat with those. Just like you got educated tonight, which gives you greater knowledge to help more people, as you educate the patient base with your services, therapies, supplements that you sell, the more they're going to also respond to your message. Revenue generation, and as you consider and think about your own career as a healthcare practitioner and for your future, are you generating enough revenue in your clinic to be financially independent now and in the future? And we're finding offices that are doing 200% and 300% more revenue than offices that aren't, that simply have a patient education system. And of course, reporting, and just like you use all kinds of devices to help find out what's wrong with a patient, what their weaknesses are and strengths, and of course, like Dr. John has taught you, muscle testing and blood work and all these kinds of ways to analyze, your business is no different. Here at the top, a global business leader, we must be data-driven in our decision-making. And again, your business is really no different. You have to have data. And if you don't have a way to track that information, and the Thrive system has a total automated system that just pulls that information, provides it at your fingertips. This from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, knowledge is power. This is a false statement. Knowledge is potential power. It becomes power only when and if it is organized into definite plans of action and directed to a definite end. So this is exactly what you do with your patient. When they come in and they have issues and problems, this is how you have success in helping them become healthier. And again, what are you doing in your business? What are you doing in your office to do exactly that, to help your business be more streamlined and more successful? Again, as I mentioned earlier, the data that we're tracking, offices that use a system, even those offices that are Dr. John offices, those that are using a system, 200+% more revenue generated. This is specifically regarding nutrition. These offices that are not yet Dr. John offices, not generating near the revenue that Dr. John offices, just again, that's because of education, because Dr. John's done such a good job in educating you to get better results with the patient. Well, in a similar way, providing a system generates significant amounts of additional revenue. And I'm going to jump over some of these slides because our time is short tonight. Lots of ways that we help educate your patient base, but I'm going to kind of leave it at that for just a minute. I want to show you just some potential opportunities. As you measure, we like to share this slide with offices just so you can get an idea. What is your potential to be able to sell nutrition? And it's all based on how many patients you have coming in. I didn't show this slide, but this is a good place to show this slide. 70% of Americans are buying nutrition supplements. So this little saying that if your patients are not purchasing supplements from you, they're still purchasing supplements, just not from you. So how can you take advantage of this powerful revenue opportunity? And not only that, as you know, with recent things in the news, there's all kinds of fillers in nutrition out there that your patients are buying. And so for you to be able to dial in with a nutrition that's powerful, filled with whole foods, all the things that Dr. John and Doug have talked to you about tonight and will continue to do so, to be able to provide that kind of nutrition to your patient base is really important and powerful. Again, thinking about your long-term revenue stream, most of you have a clinic where the only way you generate revenue is by working on people. And when you're asleep or on vacation or when you're sick, when you can't come into the office, you don't generate revenue. Well, nutrition is one of those opportunities to be able to have revenue for a long, long time, residual revenue long into the future. Dr. Lindsay, age 68, I would be making over $27,000 a month if only 5% of my patients still bought a couple of products a month. So that's all about a system. How do we educate the patient base? How do we stay connected with them? That's a system. I'm going to take you just down here. We talk about reporting. I'm going to bring you here just to the very last slide. The Thrive automated system is $249 a month. There are no contracts. It's a month-to-month relationship. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. Obviously, we can't give this kind of an offer out unless our system works.